Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. I've got the host here, Dr. Peter Boulden. What?
Not the host, a host.
I know, but a host?
Good.
It sounds kind of weird, like a host. A host Peter Boulden and me, Dr. Craig Spodak, and I'm really happy to have my buddy, my really good buddy, and not just the podcast bullshit like, oh, my good friend, but my legit real buddy, Elijah Desmond.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Aren't you happy? Like everybody's like when you intro on a podcast or like, my good buddy, Elijah Desmond, my good buddy, Dr. Peter Boulden, and they just met like an hour ago through an email, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah. Elijah, we happened to meet each other many years ago in Vegas.
Can we tell him the Vegas story first?
Sounds like a platform of a great
Oh my God, what a good story. This is such a good story.
Is it appropriate?
Can I trust you? Can I trust you to get this right, though? This is such a good story.
I think that you should. Oh, no, I'm going to. Okay.
No, you do it. This is awesome, Peter. You're going to love this story.
All right. So I just meet Craig in Las Vegas, and immediately, he finds out that we're going to, my wife and I are going to move to Del Rey. And he's like, well, we should go out and get drinks tonight. And I mean, we're in Vegas, so what am I going to say? No. Mm-hmm. So anyways, we go in. Before we get to the nightclub, I think we were at Tao. Were we at Tao, Craig?
Yeah, that has the outside area too.
Yes.
XS or Tao, I can't remember. It was awesome though.
Yeah, and so before we get there, he goes, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go find a camera guy. We're going to go pay him to snap pictures of us with the flash on, but we're going to tell him to take his SD card out. And we're going to, so I'm like, hold on, are you serious? And he's like, just go with it. So he goes up, he finds a camera guy.
You know those guys that hang out like, hey, you want to buy the picture? And they're taking photos?
Yes.
Yeah, that dude.
And so he's in the club with us, and Craig slips him some cash. We go get a drink, and immediately the shining cameras is going snap, 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 snap. And Craig's like, get away, move, get away. and so this guy follows us around throughout the night, snapping our picture like non-stop. And so we look like total celebrities.
No, the guy from the VIP comes over to me. It's like, hey, is this guy bothering you? You want to go on the VIP? And I'm like, yeah, let's go on the VIP.
Yeah, get this guy away from me.
And the guy keeps popping the shots at us. Like, so I think someone came up to me and asked me if I was Tony Hawk or something. It was such a fun day.
Yeah, it was a good. So, anyways, that was the first night with Craig. Anyhow, that was first of many.
Craig, that's pretty awesome. Actually, you just went up a notch in my book. That's pretty awesome. I wish I had leveraged that when I was a single man.
Hey, listen, I was married when I did it. It was just fun. Elijah and I we're all married men, but it's just fun to have someone snapping photos of you the whole time. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to touch your camera, but I'm going to put my hand in your lens. He's like, just don't touch my camera. I'm like, no. I'm like, bro, please stop taking photos. We kept like, and Elijah assumes like the bodyguard role because Elijah's like freaking 3 times wider than I am. It was so much fun.
So, Craig, let's get into it.
Yeah,
Unless you guys just want to reminisce about all your fun Vegas stories for the podcast and not provide any.
No. There's a lot of content here.
What do we got?
So Elijah, you got so much going on. There's so many different things. Elijah has a cruise seminar called Smiles at Sea. I was honored to be a guest speaker on that at the very first one, which is awesome. And I've done it a couple times. It was just amazing. I mean, what better way to get your whole team excited than to pop them on a boat and take them to the Caribbean and do some learning at the same time. So it was really cool. And, he's a big champion of dentistry. He's a hygienist. That's a term I've never heard before until Elijah. You familiar with a hygienist, Peter?
Never heard of that. But
yeah, I just want to say it's G-U-Y, not G-Y-N. The way you're looking, it's hygienist.
I got it the first time. Thanks.
Okay.
I will never forget that now.
Yeah, exactly. So he was a male hygienist, but you didn't practice. So give us your story. How did it all start? You obviously went to hygiene school, and then what happened from there?
Well, first off, I went to hygiene school knowing I wasn't going to stay practicing clinically, whatever I did. I knew it takes money to make money. I wasn't about to be laboring in the hot sun, carrying bricks, painting houses, doing anything like super labor intense. I needed air conditioning. And so straight out of college, 2 months after I got in, I started a temp agency. And that temp agency was the first of about 7 businesses. But the temp agency really was the platform for all of these businesses that I've created. I temped myself out. Instead of working in one practice, I practiced in like 300 practices in 3.5 years. I didn't get fired a lot. I just temped myself out a lot. So I got to go to all the amazing offices in Hawaii. A new office, I was there. When they said they were going to put you up in a beach house, their beach house, and you could ride a bicycle through the mountains or through Hawaii to get to work because it was 10 minutes away, I was there. So every like dream job in Hawaii, I took it instead of sending one of my 80 temps that I had by the end to do it. And started many businesses on the way, and it's been so fun. It's just been a crazy, fun journey. So that's the super sweet. I mean, we can go on for hours. You got to be super specific.
Yep.
That's pretty fascinating. So you went to hygiene school fully knowing that wasn't going to be the end goal.
Absolutely. I just knew that I needed to get something that made decent money. And, at 21 years old, $40 an hour isn't too bad to start, right?
But you stayed in the vertical or the lane of dentistry though, right? Even all of your businesses, right?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So the last couple haven't been dentistry, but for the most part, they've all been dental related. Yep.
Cool. And tell me what's the one thing what's your contribution? What's the one thing you're most excited about when we talk about what you bring to dentistry? Because I know you're doing so many different things. Like, where are you at right now? Because every time I talk to you, and I've known you for several years, there's always something that's really like getting you really amped up, and I want to know what that is right now.
Man, to be honest, it's influence. It's influence and ability to change people's lives. I mean, I've finally reached the point to where I can't even walk through the conference floor without people like saying thank you so much. Like that is the best feeling ever, because there's a lot of dental professionals that don't just want to practice clinically the whole time. They want to do other things. They want to hire an associate to run it for them. They want to go into sales, speaking, consulting. And the Facebook group that I created is just for that, which you're a part of. And I'll tell you, like just this week alone, easily I've gotten 5 or 6 messages of the messages say something along the lines of thank you, and you changed my life in some capacity.
Cool.
I mean, that is where it's at. I mean, it feels so good because I've made it to the point in my career where it's no longer about me. It's just about helping other people. And I think that that's a point where everybody wants to get. And I'm happy. I'm at the best spot of my career.
So Elijah, how are you helping folks? Is it through the Facebook medium, or like give me the context of how this is going down?
Yes, absolutely. So people that feel trapped in a clinical setting, essentially.
Okay.
That's one of the ways, and they want something different. They want something more. Not that they necessarily want to leave clinical all the way, but maybe they want to start speaking. I was on the road 10 to 12 cities every month last year, burning the road, speaking all over, and bringing really happiness to dentistry. So something we didn't talk about is I'm actually a motivational speaker. So 15 years old, I tested into college and began my career as a motivational speaker. And then and that was middle schools, high schools, and colleges. But I put a twist because I got into dentistry and started speaking in dentistry and using that element, and basically just going and bringing happiness back to our industry and finding jobs, finding opportunities, creating opportunities, that kind of life-changing stuff.
So people will reach out to you when they want to start kind of I don't know, maybe reach out to you, but you consult on kind of the side hustle in dentistry, if you will. Is that, am I hitting it, or am I still kind of off?
Kind of off. Let me bring you in. So I had a consulting business, but I no longer do consulting. That's another story, but it's not consulting. It's basically me doing live videos nonstop and posting motivational things and posting opportunities. So let me give you a perfect example.
Okay.
Somebody wants to create a dental consulting business. They call me up and they say, Elijah, how do you create a dental consulting business? Or if they want to start speaking and they don't know the first place to start in our industry, I connect them to all the companies, all the speakers, all the who's who in dentistry that they essentially need to know. Somebody wants to get a job working for Oral-B. Somebody wants to start doing research, writing.
So you're a connector influencer. That's okay. All right. I dig it. So yeah, I mean, am I hitting it now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I'm doing is connecting people and creating opportunities. And
what's the Facebook group again? So our listeners can know.
It's called Trapped in an Op, like trapped in an operatory.
Trapped in an op. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you find that that's a systemic problem in dentistry? People feeling trapped in an op?
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's an opportunity that not many people know. So
Right.
a lot of people, they practice their entire life and they didn't have any clue that there was actually other opportunities.
But here's why I asked that, Elijah, is because I see ads on people. There's actually a guy who runs an ad in my town. It's like, all the messaging is get out of the op and get out of the op and do this and get out of the op. And I'm like, well, wasn't that what we were designed to do, is like be in the op to a certain degree? Like why is the narrative, like, why is the goal line getting out of the op? I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying, like, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I absolutely do. So at the end of the day, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things to talk about in this topic, but essentially the clinical dentistry is amazing, and it wouldn't even be around as an industry if there wasn't people that loved practicing clinically. Mm-hmm. However, there are some people like myself who I can't be around those four walls. So I want to help our industry in other ways.
Right.
Some people just don't know it, and I expose it all basically and create the opportunity. But that's not all that I'm doing. Of course, there's so many different things. Team building is huge, right? So people, dental offices, they all come to the cruises to have the time of their life and really to create and develop the culture in their office and those relationships. And so I'm all for everyone practicing clinically. It's just there are some people that want to be a speaker. There's so many people that desire to be a speaker and share their message.
Well, everybody's a podcaster. Why not?
There is 50 of them, but I mean, so when you say you do a lot of team building stuff, like let's jump into that a little bit, because I'm interested. If you're helping teams, what are you finding that they're suffering from, they need you to fix? Right, because you've worked at a lot of offices. Like, what I'm going, Elijah, I'm trying to identify problems that we can discuss, so that we can help deploy that to the people who are listening.
Absolutely. So oftentimes in offices, when you go into them and there's like it's drama. There's a lot of dark cloud that's over an office. And many times the reason for that is because you have the wrong people, or you didn't create the foundation or the culture in the office. Mm-hmm. And so the relationships need to be tightened. And so I am not personally doing the speaking. I'm just creating the environment for people to come, bond, and leave as a better team, essentially. Okay.
So do you find that a lot of teams that aren't, they're suffering from the bickering and the drama, it's because they're lacking alignment in terms of, like, Craig and I talk about this, kind of a top down, like they're not getting the right leadership, which is not creating the right culture, which, no one's aligned. No one has their GPS set to the same coordinates. And it's just a bunch of, like, free for all and, just for me kind of thing, or one for all. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm saying? Like it's all just every man or woman for himself, as opposed to all being aligned towards one common goal. But that maybe hadn't been set up by the owner or the management.
Absolutely. So oftentimes there is no foundation.
Okay.
And a lot of times I see people that are in the middle of I call it a big drama work environment, and they want the right culture and they don't know where to start. And that's a really difficult place to be, where, like, for instance, Craig, I don't know how you built your office. I just know that when I walked into your office, maybe a year after it was built or something like that, the culture was amazing from day one. And it's like, how do you get a culture with 50 some people that amazing? In my opinion, I would think that that's how it started. I don't think it switched. So I guess I would put that question back on Craig. Like, Craig, how do you get your office? How did your office become the way that it is? Did it start like that, or did you have some consultant change the office?
Well, I love the saying, magic is hard work. And I think that we all...
Wait, who says that?
Magic is hard work?
Never. In 42 years, I've never heard magic is hard work.
Well, why don't you Google it?
Well, you just love a quote, and then you love giving credit to that quote. And I was wondering, I was
Well, I
waiting.
didn't say I said it.
I know, but you
Why
love.
why are you messing up with my flow, man? It was a good question. The
Sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. Okay, go
Hold
ahead.
on.
Go ahead, Craig. Talk about your culture. Go ahead. Sorry.
Magic is hard work. Colin Powell. A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Colin Powell.
So you pretty much just abbreviated his quote and just made it your own. Okay.
I didn't say I love my quote, magic is hard work. I said, I love what I do. I love what I say. No, but I think it's really important, and I think it's really fair for this to be on the table because we live in an age where social media is dominating everything, and especially in dentistry. There's a lot of boastful, there's people that are proclaiming on different Facebook chat rooms that, oh, it's so awesome. I got 10 offices. I'm making $1 million a year. And everybody's got to put their pants on one leg at a time. And there's no secret recipe. It takes a lot of hard work. I don't even believe in the idea of talent. Talent is way overrated. I think most kids that grow up with a lot of talent, they oftentimes don't apply it as much because they have to exert very little effort and they get rewarded. So we all have we know the famous stories of, Walt Disney being fired because he lacked imagination, or Michael Jordan being kicked off the high school basketball team. It is really freaking hard. I have meeting after meeting. Peter works so tirelessly on his marketing and his business. And I think it's just we're willing to toil and suffer more than maybe some of our colleagues, because you don't just walk in, treat everybody really nicely, high five them, and build an iconic culture. There's a lot of hard conversations that surround that. And I am willing to work really, really hard. I spend far more time, and I'm not saying this is a good thing to do. And if you're a younger doctor that maybe be an associate, maybe you have it figured out right. But for me, it's insane amounts of work, insane amounts of dedication, insane amounts of training, sitting down, asking the hard questions. I've had 360-degree feedback, blind feedback given to me that demolished me. People actually wrote down or through a person said things about me that were really gut-wrenching. About how I occur, how that when I talk to them, I'll pick up my phone and ignore them, or that I don't follow through, or that I'm inconsistent. So I had really hard stuff delivered to me over time. And I know, Peter, you're very receptive to that as well. So my advice is, if you want to build something iconic in any fashion, you're going to have to take big hard looks.
So that seems very, just I'm looking from an outsider listening to you say that sounds pretty daunting. I don't know if Elijah,
it's super fucking daunting.
It is, but here's the deal. Everyone, you have focused, you focused on your highest and best use, right? You don't do a lot of the day-to-day grind that you talk about. So you don't feel overwhelmed because you're in your highest and best use of your practice.
No, I do feel overwhelmed, Peter. I do grind.
You do. You do, but it's doable. And so I'm going to make sure that the message is not of one of doom and gloom. And it's this intense amount of work. Yes, it's hard work, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like a lot of work because you're aligned with this overarching mission that you had a vision for your practice, right, Craig? And you saw your building, you saw this shit before you got there. And therefore you just kind of your mind went to work, and it's the reticulating activating system, right? That Tony talks about. You just went there. And so
I think, though, Elijah hit on something very early. He said, I'm at the point now where I get to give, and he's getting from his giving. So he alluded to a certain point where he had to worry about his subsistence. Obviously, when we first start out, there's a crushing amount of bills, and we're trying to worry if we can make it. And then there's a next level where it's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the next level where we're actually making it. Now you can think about contribution. And what Elijah was intimating at is he walks through the meeting, he's at a contribution stage of his career where he can contribute, and he's monetizing the contribution. That's what I'm saying too.
Yes, and I agree with that. That actually, I'm glad you said that, because I give the analogy like a snowball down the hill. In the beginning, you had to create that snowball leadership culture. But guess what? You went away for a couple of months last summer, and your leadership stayed, because you're not the only driver of that leadership and culture now. Your team actually protects that house. You know, I give that
Right,
reference.
but growing leaders is so freaking hard. It is
100%. I'm
so
not saying
hard.
it's not hard. It's just, it's super doable, and it's super, you just have to be super intentional with it.
Well, listen, I had a big why. My vision was to create like a dental hospital with specialists, and we have 10 doctors now. I don't. That is not for the faint of heart, and I'm not suggesting that's something that anybody should do. But leadership, it is a numbers game, and if you have 3 or 5 people that you're leading, it is oftentimes easier than 50. Your leadership game has to be stepped up to lead 50, then at a higher level to lead 30.
So Elijah, you said something about the consultancy. Like, well, a consultant probably didn't probably didn't just come in and you all of a sudden now you had culture. And I don't think that stuff can be taught, or you can be told to do that, right? Because then it's just not authentic from the leader. Once the consultant leaves, right, you still have the same general in place leading you down the field. Would you agree, Elijah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because you had asked that in the question to Craig, well, like, okay, well, what was the genesis of your culture, right? Was it always this way, or was a consultant come in and flip a switch, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the product personally, like you, Peter. Like, Peter's a voracious reader. Like, he's a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan, and Gary V is always talking about adding value. I'm a big Tony fan. Tony's always about, the one who adds the most value wins in business. So there's not a cookbook, but there is a common theme in that you have to add tons of value. Peter, is, doing things that just add tons of value.
And not be afraid to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I make mistakes all the time. Sometimes I actually dig the mistakes, because I'm going to try this. And either I hit a home run or I get mud on my face.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you're not making mistakes, you're definitely playing it way
too safe.
Way too safe. If anybody's listening and they haven't made a mistake in a couple months or a year, you are way underselling yourself and your drive, I believe.
Elijah, what do you think about that?
I believe it. I mean, that's a lot of times why people don't succeed. It's because they're afraid to make mistakes. It's spot on. I mean, I don't know. I definitely made way more mistakes than I didn't. And those mistakes are a part of growth, but it's
right.
People are afraid to make mistakes in the first place. They don't try, so nobody really steps out of their comfort zone.
Oh, it's because it's a fear-based thing, right? We think of the consequences. Like, what if I make this mistake, then I'm not going to be able to pay my bill or my practice debt or my student loans or whatever. And I get that. That's a real fear. Fears, but you can spin that and say fear's a great motivator. Or like, you got, and my thing I always do whenever I do, like right now, I'm actually considering building another office. And I'm like, but why am I doing that? And but then I thought to myself, I was like, because I get one ticket on this world, and I think my practice deserves that new shiny office, right? So I'm already kind of creating that self-fulfilling prophecy for myself because I want to keep kind of rolling it forward.
Yeah, and also I want to call attention to your belief system behind that, because it's really important, because there's a sickness that I always talk about in America. It's more and more and more. Somehow more is going to make me happy. And I've probably said this so many times, but I want to say it again. There is a correlation between money and happiness. Dollar for dollar, from earning of $35,000 all the way up to $75,000, each dollar can positively affect some level of happiness. But after $75,000 or $78,000, that reward starts to diminish. And after $100,000, people making more money are statistically no more happy. You have a lot of shit. And like the country song, you can buy me a boat. Yeah, I mean, at 75 grand or 100 grand, you can buy a boat and a Yeti 110 iced down with some Coors or whatever. Yeah,
silver bullets.
Sorry, yeah, some silver bullets. Silver bullets are Coors though, right?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, so we're not. I want to call attention to it because I'm a big believer. I listen to the words. Like when you said it, you want to do the office because your brand deserves it. There wasn't like I want to make an extra 100 grand.
No, I'll probably make less money.
Yeah. So there's so many people that are listening to this like, oh man, I don't make enough money. I'm a failure. And there's so much of that dialogue, the keeping up with the Joneses. It used to be that keeping up with the Joneses was just the neighbor to the left and the right of you. Now the Joneses is every jackass on Facebook that's on I'm on Dental Hacks Nation, all these other places. And people are like, yeah, I'm doing this or that. I mean, I just put something out there because they're talking about compassionate finance, that healthcare company that does your finance for you. It's like a competitor to Care Credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said like, hey, I want to know because I'm spending a lot of money with Care Credit. And I don't know, I put like, I'm spending $150,000 in fees with Care Credit. And it was like, whoa, 150, you don't need to worry. You're all set. Like, oh my God, if I had, because they know that it's 10%. So geez, I'm doing 1.5 million with Care Credit. That's crazy. But they don't recognize that I have a larger office and stuff like that. And I just I want this space. I know I'm going to go woo-woo here, so Peter's going to get real uncomfortable.
Here comes a Tony Robbins quote.
Here comes a Tony Robbins, hug kumbaya. I want this space to be a space of acceptance in that we are all burdened with some level of stress. Elijah, you are burdened with stress. You are burdened with problems. Peter, I know you are as well, and I am as well. Life is a series of problems. You're just swapping it out for better quality problems. Peter has a little bit more bandwidth in his life, so he's like, screw it, let me take on some headache. And the headache for you is let me build a new office. I have like, hey, I'm not busy enough. Let me take on some headache. Let me write a book and do a podcast. So this is good. These are good problems. We had to end our days. We had to get here. Elijah, same thing. You had the Smiles at Sea. Let me do this new thing. So there's a hunger and there's a commonality in all successful people. It's hunger for more. And getting your ass kicked is part of the recipe for happiness. So in dentistry, we're all comparing each other and what's the right model and should I do a DSO? Should I have 5 offices, 7 offices? Whatever the fuck you want is perfect. It really is. And we need to create that space in dentistry that we have all of our own unique footprints. And as long as you're paying your bills and as long as you can
I agree to that actually, because you're right. The narrative, and Elijah, we did bring you on so you could talk. So sorry. I know this is like the Craig and Peter show right now.
Yeah, but it's nice to see his face.
The narrative is like, you're right, Craig. It's like trying to fit everyone in down to this multiple practice, DSO, how do we sell? How does private equity? And like, you're right.
But also trapped in the op lends to that dialogue too.
Maybe.
Trapped in the op is like, get yourself unfucked. It's kind of it's a little bit,
I like what you're saying. Like we need to create the messaging that whatever, if it's working for you, like it's good, right? You don't always have to be thinking about an exit in order to be fulfilled.
Yeah. Paul Etchinson, one of the first conversations I ever had, we were at the Voices of Dentistry with Paul and Paul's like, hey man, I want to pick your brain, blah, blah, blah. I want to, I'm working 3 days a week. I'm making X dollars. I'm like, whoa, what? Go back. You glossed over that. I'm like, you're working 3 days a week. You're making X. I was like, that's awesome. He's like, well, I should open up and get an associate and blah, blah, and expand and blah, blah. I'm like, why? This idea that you can build a businesses are like oak trees. You plant them as seeds. You have to tend to them nonstop until they start providing fruit. I guess oak doesn't provide fruit, but the analogy.
A nut.
And everybody thinks you just plant a seed and you walk away, you're Johnny Appleseed, just shit is going on. It takes a tremendous amount of work, and there's something to say about having a job that's very, LeBron James does not have a business. He has a job, but he has a really, really good job. Dr. Paul Etchinson does not have a business because if he doesn't work, it doesn't make money, but he's got a really good job. He can make in 3 days, busting it out, what I make in 5 days of owning a business. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty darn cool. And dentistry affords you that opportunity. So don't get stuck in someone else's narrative of what you need to do. You need to get untrapped from the op. No disrespect to Elijah.
You need that, Elijah, a lot, like that shift in dentistry that we're not shift, but the narrative in dentistry that we're talking about right now. Maybe it's the people that we talk to. So I don't know. I want to get your insight on.
Yeah, look at Chombo. Look at Chombo Sims. He's feeling like, what I need to do something. There's a narrative. Talk about the narrative, Elijah, because you're in the lecture world. You're part of the summits and the things, and there's a common theme, and I want to know if you're hearing it or not.
I mean, I'm not hearing it. I just see a lot of people that want different things at the end of the day. I mean, You just rattled off 4 or 5 different things, and at the end of the day, people need to decide what's best for them. Whether it's having 50 people, or it's working 3 days, or it's making, $1 million a month or $1 million a year. I mean, everybody has their own things, and it's tough because everybody's now telling you like what you should do or what's the standard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I constantly see on these forums, everybody's like they're not boasting or bragging, but they they're explaining how successful they are, which I have 4 things written down on this piece of paper that I want to talk about. I think it's a perfect time to talk about it.
Go for it. Yes, please.
The first thing is that what I stepped out of consulting at the right time, because what I noticed is everybody is a freaking consultant. Everybody is a consultant. And I don't understand how there are so many, but everybody's a consultant. And so I think that that's really confusing. And there really needs to be like some kind of Tinder app for a consultant with the
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody is looking for something different, because not everybody wants to have 50 people in a practice, but not everybody wants to, work their butt off like Chombo on skates. Everybody has different things. So I feel like that there's so many consultants out there. People don't know which way to turn. They don't know what to do. They're confused. They're getting ripped off. They didn't get the right consultant. And it's a tough time, I feel like, in dentistry when you have these standards that people are putting out there. And because social media is so popular right now and people are so vocal, and they weren't before, I almost feel like business owners are getting like self-conscious. Like, am I good enough? Or how is this person making this much money and why am I not? And it's just it's a different, I feel like I've watched in the past 5 years, our profession, evolve. And I think it's due to social media.
That's pretty fascinating. You hear about the effects of social media amongst your peers, right? Like the buddy who got on the private jet and how's he flying private, but I didn't ever think about it on a macro level from a business perspective, right? And that's what you're saying. Like, well, look at his practice or look at what they're doing on a professional level. I didn't ever think about that, but you're right. It transcends into both areas. So proceed, Elijah. That's fascinating.
Exactly. I'm almost finished with my book, and the first chapter is called the number one risk in life, and the number one risk in life is being yourself. And there's so many times throughout your career or your life that people are going to try to tell you that you should be this or you should be that, and it's really difficult. It's a struggle, especially when you're coming up in your career. You don't really know what you are, who you are yet. Mm-hmm. And to me, hearing all of these voices in your head saying I'm this, I'm that, people need to stop and think, what do you want? Do you want to have $1 million practice? You want to have a $12 million practice? What do you want? And stop listening to people. And mm-hmm. So I think everybody got into this profession for one major reason, and that was to change lives. And it was a pretty good job. And I think that it's really important to come into the profession or to stop yourself and ask yourself, what do you want? Because I really think that dentists and business, as a business owners in general, are really confused because there's so many mixed messages and they're so busy listening. And instead they should ask, what do you want? What do you want out of your career? What do you want out of life? And so anyways, it's what's on my mind right now.
No, I think that's great. That was just number one.
Yeah.
I love that.
You ready for number two?
What's number two?
I've heard this so much in the past year, and you guys will have to chime in here. I have heard many times from many different people in our industry that there is currently a changing of the hands. There's currently a changing of the hands, meaning that the dentists that are in the older generation or the leaders in dentistry are almost passing the mic and passing the baton. And there's a new uprising of essentially influencers or people in our industry. And so I'd like to hear you guys' thought on that. Like, are we in the changing of the hands times? What's going on right now in our industry?
I hope not. I'm just kidding.
I mean, let's face it, Gordon Christensen's getting older, right? And everybody else.
Oh, that that generation. Yeah, I hope so.
What I see on this is there's a breakdown in the information. So everything, there's middlemen and everything. There used to be middle people that inserted themselves into every process in the world. So like, Amazon comes along and takes out, the middleman, whether that be the local hardware store or whatever. And then you look at like religion, we have less attendance in church because people want to, not that they're less religious, but people don't need the priest. I could have a spiritual relation. I could listen to a podcast and have my own spiritual relationship with God. And then dentistry, there was the Gordon Christensens, the people locked in the ivory towers that you needed to pay and go to Scottsdale to pay thousands of dollars. And now you can get valuable information from people that are actually doing it. So I see there. So now there's the podcast Facebook leader, but then I think it's going to turn into who's actually doing it. There's a lot of people speaking on the big stage that are getting $20,000 from mastermind groups. You look at their practices, there's one hygienist and one assistant, yet they're talking about building.
Or better yet, like people speaking, and this drives me crazy, people about it like, I'm a social media, I consult on social media. Meanwhile, it's like crickets.
They got 60 followers on Instagram.
Yeah,
I know.
I hear you.
So now what's happening is people are, you get a lecturer that pays to come to a seminar, and he's sitting up there and he's talking about how to get Google reviews, how to get the most amazing Google reviews. And as you're listening to him talk or her talk, you're literally on your phone pulling him up. You can get a 3.2 on Yelp and a 3.1 on Google, and he's got 14 reviews. And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this guy doesn't have any credibility. So there's going to be a major, not just a changing of hands, but a street cred component. You can't fake it anymore. The mastermind people that are hosting mastermind groups that have, great attendance, but have an office that does $600,000 a year. I mean, that's great, but why you're pontificating in theory. What is it really like when you have 5 locations or 7 locations, or you're doing 5 million or 7 or 10 million? That's actually who I want to hear. There's a breakdown now. It's all authentic and it's really cool. So just like you can't advertise your way out of a problem now, you actually have to provide an exceptional experience.
The problem with that though, Craig, is the people who are like, you don't have time. So you have the merit to teach on, let's just say someone wants to build the dental hospital up. You don't have the time, even though you're the real thing, you don't have the time to do it.
We're doing it here.
Right.
The time
scale, though,
Gordon Christensen used to have to fly to Seattle and speak at the ADA. We're doing this in 40 minutes, providing value.
All right. Well, then scratch that.
And people can consume it at their own will. So it's just a major breakdown. It's really cool, but it's a meritocracy. To quote my friend Peter Boulden,
that's my favorite word.
I know that, and binary. You haven't used binary in a couple of weeks
because you busted my chops too much about it.
Yeah, I made you sensitive about it.
I was about to use meritocracy, but I was like, oh, he'll call me out.
But it's true, Elijah. Like, people are not going to listen to people that don't have the street cred. They really won't. They're like, what's your practice like? Oh, well, I don't really maintain a practice.
And it should be, though. Would you agree, Elijah? Because like you alluded to, everyone's a consultant now, and that maybe shouldn't be such a crowded space. And it's a confusing space because, like, I don't know. Tell me what you think.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely, you should have been there and done that and experienced it if you're going to coach on it, or you're going to influence people on it. If you haven't been there and done that, then essentially you're doing it for the wrong reason, which to me is not true. Yeah, it's money. And I mean, if that's your thing, then that's cool. But if just because you go to school and you learn it doesn't mean that you're the expert at it. You have to actually do it. And I personally don't care about that personally. As far as who's speaking on stage and what they're speaking on in that capacity, because I'm not clinical anymore. I'm looking for feel good speakers that are just positive people. Because there's a lot of negativity out there. Holy crap. Have you seen these forums? I mean, it's unbelievable. And so I'm looking for this positive people that I'm not necessarily, let me give you an example. So every year I bring on between, we'll say 60 and 80 speakers to come to my events. I have to go to interview, hear them, look at their CVs, all the above. I got to be honest. I'm not looking at how many years did you practice clinically and what was your net profits. I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at what is your reputation and how do you make me feel. If you make me feel good and you have a great reputation, then I want to be associated with you. Because there's some people that have amazing clinical skills, but their personality or their lecture abilities are higher than that person. So I hear what you're saying. It is very important that you've been there and done that. But at the end of the day, as essentially a meeting planner, I'm not looking for that at all.
Good point, man. Good point.
That is a good point.
Yeah, like you could have the street cred, but if you don't land on people and influence people, it doesn't really matter. I really appreciate you saying that, man. Super, super good point. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I guess that kind of rubs us as dentists wrong, because we're like, who are you to speak about that? But it really, all you care about is that you have an influencer that moves the needle and inspires people.
Yeah, all you care about is the primary outcome.
Yeah.
Which,
if you have a speaker that helps the profession, it doesn't matter.
I dig that too. So, all right. Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to stand corrected on that.
All right. Good stuff.
Elijah, what's number 3? I'm into this fourth list thing.
Number 3 is the reason why, what's the reason why we all entered in this profession, and working less and not more. And it ties into everybody's a consultant. And so essentially everybody there's so many people that are consultants. And as a consultant, what I realized is I could go in one office and I could make I could have the best results ever, and I can go to another office with the exact same ingredients and it would be a total flop. Mm-hmm. And so I noticed that it was a people thing, right? And so the people were really going to depend on the outcome. It wasn't me, it was the people. And at the end of the day, I noticed that I didn't like consulting anymore. It didn't make any sense to me. And I also struggle with the fact that there's so many dentists out here that are doing consulting. You can make so much more money owning your own practice and practicing what you preach in the first place. Just go and build your empire or build your office and then flip it. You can sell it like real estate. So anyways, I'm not a dentist, so I can't do that. So what I found out is that I actually have the ability to make dentists work less and make more through a different way. And it was, first off, the reason why everybody went into dental school in the first place. It wasn't necessarily to do small fillings and extractions and prevention and check out check out the hygienist doing the SRP and cleanings and crowns. It was to actually make people smile, to give people a smile, right? So if I could ask you, what is your most satisfying thing in your profession, in practicing clinically, what would it be? Either of you can.
Oh, the most satisfying thing in my profession?
Clinically, what would it be?
So
when you go to work,
mm-hmm.
What makes you feel so happy? Like, what is like goosebumps to you?
The tears at the end of a procedure, so I do larger complex, stuff. So when I see tears and people are like, oh my God, I shouldn't cry. I'm like, no, you should cry. Life only gives you certain opportunities for happy tears. Like, do it. And they're crying about their smile. And that makes me just literally, it does it right now. It's doing it right now. Like the hairs on my arm, because I dig that. Now I don't get that all the time, but when it happens, it's effing magical.
Yeah.
To the T. How about you? Was that same for you or what?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
Well, he straightens teeth, so they're slower tears, right?
No, but I get I get a lot of vicarious. You got to understand, with a large practice, 10 doctors, everything that goes wrong is my fault. Everything that goes right is my fault. So I feel a tremendous sense of pride when patients tell me that the experience used to be scared and now they're not. But I also get a massive sense of pride when I have a team member saying, when I first came to this office, I was shy, I was afraid to talk to people, and now I feel like I get to help people and that type of stuff. It's super cool.
That is awesome.
So where I was going with all that full circle is I understand that the dentist goes to school to change people's life and to give them a smile. They go for those goosebumps. And it's not necessarily about the money. It's about the goosebumps. It's about that overall big picture, the why. And so I went in from consulting and thinking that the dentists were simply wanting to have a better business and to make more money, to just marketing for high value cases. That's it. Only marketing for high value cases and giving the dentist those goosebumps all the time. So I feel it's so much easier to step outside of the consulting role and instead bring the dentist these high end cases to essentially fulfill their why. So give people the smile that they've ever always wanted, and give the dentist the smile and those goosebumps that they've always wanted. That was a huge transition for me. So now I'm out of the consulting and into specifically bringing those cases to opposite.
You're a prospector.
What's a prospect? Define a prospector.
Getting someone who prospects for, you're hunting for the gold that you're going to give to the dentist. And that goosebumps is the gold.
Yep, exactly. So I'm basically finding the gold. So that's like one of the main things that I'm doing now, which is awesome because I don't have to worry about giving people these ingredients and worried about how they're going to mix them essentially. I'm bringing the gold straight
That's
to the
awesome.
dentist and that's it.
Man, that's
Cool.
awesome.
You know what's so funny is all of our fulfillment, everything that lights us up is outside of us. It's nothing about us. It's not like, it's other people. There's no coincidence that yours, mine, and Elijah's are all about other people.
Absolutely.
Deep Thoughts by Craig Spodak.
Another thing is what is your hygienist supposed to do? It's let's talk about hygiene coaching for a minute, because I had it all wrong for probably, in my opinion, for probably about 6 years while I was coaching, and it literally is just starting to click. So my thought before is let's ramp up hygiene and do the best thing for the patient, right? Let's build an amazing hygiene program, fluoride, make sure that they're getting, their perio when it's necessary, make sure that they're coming in 3 months for a gingivitis cleaning and stop waiting till they get perio, doing sealants, etc. And so I was essentially coaching to increase the production and to do the best thing for the patient. And what I didn't realize is I don't really think anymore that the hygienist should be essentially focused on all of those things. Sure, that's part of their job, but their focus should actually be on the relationship and referring out for work in your chair, in the dentist chair. And I never had that thought or that thought process actually until recently in the last year. I guess I just didn't get it. Because the big picture is, if you have, how many hygiene chairs do you have, Craig? 6 or 5 at any given time?
We've got 9. 9er.
Right. So 9 hygiene chairs working, and restorative is coming out of there like crazy, and they have that relationship built. So essentially you get a yes before you come into the room. That makes so much more sense than giving the patient a menu of hygiene things. Like, who cares about some freaking mouth rinse and... You all right over there, Craig?
Seriously?
Yeah, I've had this cough for 8 weeks.
God, you might want to go check and mute your mic. Jeez.
So I guess
I coughed in the mic. I'm sorry. Where's your mic, Pete?
It's not being coughed on right now.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was a change in my thinking, and I want to know what you guys think about that. So the hygienist, you guys have probably some productive hygienists, and wouldn't it be nice to get the patients to say yes to everything from your treatment and for them to get some really good cases, because that relationship's built up over just having a pretty good productive team? What are your thoughts on that?
You mean being a hygienist that's focused on the complete health of the patient, not just like the gum health? Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, I thought that was the way it always, my team is conditioned that the hygiene is responsible for helping to enroll the restorative, right? That's part of their job description. It's not just like, hey, get the gums healthy. We're a team, and the hygiene is where a lot of the doctors will get busy, right? And so they have to start having those conversations about crooked teeth and occlusion and look at this wear, and yes, you do have an infection on this gum little area, right? That we need to treat. So it's everything. My hygienists have to do it all, because we actually practice complete health dentistry. We actually look at things from a global perspective. So I didn't know that's maybe a big problem going on, Elijah, as just, I'm only doing my job and that's it. Because that would be hard for the dentist, right? Because we get a lot of our work from hygiene, right? And that's where we identify the problems a lot of times.
Well, yeah, it's our fault though, Peter. Having the benefit of working in a multi-doctor office, I get to see how different dentists treat the hygienists. So I have this one hygienist, she's a total rock star, Jessica. I'd love to have her on the podcast, actually. I know you have a couple rock stars too. She comes and gets me all the time. She's like, hey, Dr. C, I really want you to see this patient. I think this is an awesome thing. That they're very interested. They're kind of ready to go. This is what's going on. And when she catches a patient like that, she's already kind of pre-sold the work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of dentists don't feel comfortable having the hygienist talk. They feel it's a power thing. So like, you're not supposed to diagnose. Like, where is there a hygienist in jail for talking about a concern? I've yet to see that. Listen, they can't practice dentistry without a license, but why is it illegal or considered a big no-no for a hygienist to be like, hey, your lower teeth are really crowded and they're chipping. I'm worried because when the teeth are crowded, they don't wear as well or they can be damaged. I want to get the doctor in because I'm concerned about this. Like, but I see, so when a hygienist says that to me, I acknowledge them, like, wow, Jessica, thank you so much. This is amazing. And she's like, well, if you could just get Dr. So-and-so in the practice to feel that way. Because every time I come to them, they're like, oh, a hygiene check. I'm like, are you kidding me? They feel that way? Like, yeah, I had a patient all ready to go. And they said, oh, it's 1 crown. I don't want to do 1 crown. She's like, yes, I know it's 1 crown, but the guy has collapsed VDO. And I want to get him, I want you to talk to him about opening up his vertical dimension. And dentists are actually thinking hygiene is a problem for them. Hygiene is a barrier for them.
But it's inconvenience, right?
It's
to the
inconvenience.
Heavy lifting that we're doing on the other side of the room, right?
So the new patient's so freaking sexy. New patient, new possibility, but we know, statistically speaking, the new patient actually accepts very little of what you say. The existing patient already likes your practice and much more likely. So if anything, you should have a bulletproof hygiene practice with a low attrition or a 0 attrition rate, and you won't have the opportunity to see a new patient.
I think too, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of that is going to the OCD-ness of a lot of dentists. Like a lot of dentists are very like, I'm in my zone. And then you break them out, like, I need to check. It's like, oh, they were in the zone, like focusing on, at least that's for me. Like I get dialed in and then it's like, oh, I need you to do a hygiene check. And I'm like, it's not that I don't want to do the check. It's just that I don't want to get out of my zone. Maybe that's not.
Yep, it's true.
Neither one of y'all are shaking your heads.
No, I think that, but imagine how the hygienist feels. They don't give a shit what the reason is. I don't want to get out of my zone. I'm prepping a case. Hygienists have an hour or 45 minutes to do a long task. And if they're spending a shit ton of effort trying to get a patient enrolled in something that they're really not even being compensated for, the minute, even if your intent was good, like I'm in the zone, I'm in the flow, whatever, you're not going to get.
I'm not making it right, Craig. I'm agreeing with you.
I know.
Give reason for why that sentiment happens, and that's all.
But but we all have the road to hell's paved with good intentions, and the doctors are not trying to jack up their hygiene schedule. But you've got to reward. I mean, human behavior. What gets rewarded gets reinforced and propagated. So when your hygienist is busting her ass and she wants to say, hey, doc, can you come check this out? I know Mrs. Jones isn't due for an exam, but I'm concerned about this. If you're like, hey, I'm kind of like in the middle of something, you got to make time more often than not. And I just see, because my practice is a microcosm of a larger thing, there's certain doctors in my practice that really, the hygienists don't even want to talk to them right now. They don't want to inconvenience them. Mm-hmm. And I don't see it that way. I'm always, even when it's really busy, I always try to find a way to say yes, because I want them to keep finding the work.
Elijah?
That's awesome. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I've watched how Craig reacts to his employees, and I think that's just a personality thing, really. And there's also, have you ever tested, Craig? Have you ever tested or have you ever looked at certain hygienists that work with certain dentists better?
Yeah.
And
Dental Intel has that. Dental Intel has that, so you can see who works best with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I was with Dental Intel for the entire weekend, actually. Yeah, thank you. They're amazing.
I introed Elijah and West and Lunsford to Dental Intel.
Yeah, they're just unbelievably amazing. But I'm curious to see with that amount of hygienists and dentists who works best together, and seeing if there's a way to kind of keep them together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you gamify it.
Yeah.
Gamify it, yeah.
And by the way, it's not what you think. So I looked at it in my practice. I'm like, oh my God, I get along so well with, Joanne. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot better. And it's actually the people that I don't have as much rapport with, because Joanne and I have so much rapport. We just kind of like read each other's minds and stuff, but I'm not as specific. So like another hygienist that I might not have as much rapport with, I'm like very direct. I'm like, hey, Diane, make sure you get Mrs. Jones in for her next visit. Number 12 needs a crown. I'm really worried about the crack. and I got to get her scheduled. So it's interesting. It's not what you may think. The data may be very enlightening for you. I want to point out that Dental Intel is a big fan of our podcast. And if you use our name, Bulletproof Dental Practice, or even Spodak, they'll waive your initiation fee, which is super cool. So just wanted to mention that. We'll have a formal link, by the way, on this bio by the time it comes out. But they are willing to give our listeners something special, and that's more than you and I.
Yeah, we're both obviously paying users.
We are paying users, both paying users of Dental Intel. Gladly paying users. You told me like when you signed up, that was worth like tons of money.
It paid for like 10 years in 1 month.
Literally. Yeah, game changer.
So I think that they are, and they might have already came out with it. They're actually coming out with they're gamifying dentistry across the country. So you're going to see where your practice ranks, which I think is amazing. So the initial fee, I think, that you're talking about, Craig,
yep.
You're also referring to kind of a practice snapshot, which everybody needs, which is amazing. But something that's really cool that they're either coming out with or have came out with is they're ranking you as a dentist across the country and in your state or city with other dentists, which I think is so fun. That's
like in your face. I'm not sure I want to open that email.
I mean, for those of us who are competitive and want to strive for better.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty good stuff. So, anyways.
I love it.
You guys. What else do you want to chat about?
I want to really talk about your tattoos just for 1 minute, if you don't mind. Can you back the camera out? Because I think it's kind of cool, a story you got going on there.
So there's the microphone.
So which one was the gateway is what I want to know.
The gateway?
Yeah, which is your first tattoo? It was I know what it is, a Papa Smurf on his hip.
It always starts as like, I'm going to get someone's initials on my arm. And then before you know, you're like in war paint.
You know what's that is so funny. Do you want to know what's so crazy? I actually have wanted to get a sleeve for probably about 10 or 15 years. And the reason why I didn't get a sleeve is because the first thing people do when they see you is judge you. And when you're on stage on a regular basis, you do not need to be judged. And so I told myself, when I make it to the point in my career where it doesn't matter anymore, I'm getting a sleeve. And I got the sleeve in August. And I just don't care what people think. I'm a good person and I know it.
Meanwhile, you still wear full long sleeve shirts on stage. You don't care what people think. I'm just kidding, Elijah.
Yeah, Elijah.
I don't care, but I'm fully covered up.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. You want your street cred? Get a freaking neck tattoo.
No, that's not happening. 2 times I've actually taken my suit jacket off, taken my cufflinks, and pulled my sleeve intentionally because I'm so proud of it. And when I get on stage for Smiles at Sea, I'm going with the tank top with the microphone in hand. So, but anyways, so this right here, this is, I don't know if you can see it. It's a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes up. That's called the ladder of life. That means the most to me out of all these tattoos. And essentially, what the ladder of life is you have a ladder, and you're looking up at the top, and it's all of these people that are billionaires, they're movie stars, they're famous, they're
Peter Boldens.
Easy.
And it's actually very lonely at the top. I'm looking up and seeing that these people don't even like to be there in the first place. They're committing suicide. They're getting, they're overdosing on drugs. They're in jail. They're doing all the wrong things. And I'm like, I don't even want to be at the top of the ladder anymore. It doesn't sound fun. So the first part of my career, I was so focused on myself. I was very selfish. I wanted the next business deal. I wanted the next speaking gig. I was focused only on me. So what I decided to do is I decided to reach back down the ladder of life and reach back with one hand and help other people up instead of focusing so much on the top. And it was super nerve-wracking for me. It was actually really scary because I was spending a lot of time helping people. And it felt so good, actually, to do that. I decided to take both hands off the ladder of life and reach back and help as many people as I possibly can. And as a byproduct of that, I continued to move up the ladder, and I don't even want to be at the top of the ladder. And now I've changed so many people's lives and put them way above where I'm at, but I'm around thousands of people, especially in our industry, that are friends, that I'm friends with, that I've helped in some capacity. And now I no longer want to be at the top of the ladder of life. So that's that tattoo.
That's it. I'm getting a tattoo, Craig.
Well, you know, it's cool, man. There's another quote that reminds me of a concept. It's like in the beginning we pursue significance and we want to be on top, but the true measure of leadership, the true measure of your character is how far you're willing to bend down and help other people. It really is. That's what leads to the most amount of fulfillment. So you actually rise to the top by putting people's needs above your own. There's a quote that says the way you get to basically the way you get to the top is by helping other people get there too. Help other people get their needs met. It's cool. I like it.
Absolutely. And then I have this quote right here. You can't see it good, but it says motivation and determination without procrastination is the key to success. And so there are so many people out there that are so motivated and then all of a sudden it fizzles out. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people out there that are really determined, but they're not motivated, so it never really works. And majority of the people simply don't follow through, and they procrastinate. So many tasks, so many ideas, so many dreams are created, and they simply don't follow through on them.
That quote again for me. Say it again for me, please.
Motivation and determination without procrastination is the key to success.
Yep, I would agree.
And then the microphones is all about changing people's life from the stage, and then reach for the stars. That's where that thing is. Music just makes me happy. That's a note.
Damn, you got like a damn mural. I mean, you were all in on the microphone and the ladder. You were all in. You have to hold yourself accountable every day in the mirror, don't you?
Money is time. Time is money. There's my little TikTok clock.
Hey, Elijah, show them the Spodak Dental Group tattoo that you got recently.
Oh, that one's in a place that people really shouldn't see.
He doesn't have one.
Craig, you want to see mine?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Elijah, I enjoyed it, man. I actually learned a lot from you. I want to get you back on because I think there's a lot of runway for us to dive deeper on a couple of those 1 through 4s for sure. If we should have done a 4-part series and just dive deep on one at a time, because I feel like you were just tipping the ice on what you really wanted to say and what you could say because you're qualified to do it.
Lots of stuff. I'd love to be back for sure. And I have one recommendation, and maybe this is where it starts. So this is an amazing laid back podcast or video cast. Mm-hmm. It makes all the sense in the world to do this live within a group and then record it and download it.
Meaning what?
Yeah, say it. What do you mean?
Okay, so there's this software called Be Live. Mm-hmm. And Be Live essentially allows you to broadcast a live cast in a Facebook dental group. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, you simply download it and send it to a podcast, send it to a repurposer. But it's amazing, had lots of fun, but wouldn't it be cool to have people that are commenting and you could respond to the comments and tag their comments at the top? And then the bottom of the screen, it'll say your names and it's just
you know what? YouTube does that actually. YouTube allows you to go live and then comments come up and you can do the same thing. Actually, I've actually partook in one of those.
Partaken.
Thank you.
I've partaken. Yeah.
That is a cool idea. I think I would just be nervous that it would be crickets and no one would say anything and we'd be like, all right, waiting for our first one to pop up.
Well, no, you just have here's the thing. You have your normal conversation just like we're doing. Yeah. And then
here comes a troll.
Yeah. But the thing is people, you just don't bring the troll's comments at the top. So you can put whatever person's comment, you can tag it, and it'll show up at the bottom of the screen. Check it out. Be Live. I think you guys would be like perfect.
I'm gonna check it out. Yeah. Check it out. That would be fun.
Yeah. You know what, Peter? Let me get on that. I'll do it for us.
Why don't you do? Yeah,
I'll do that
for once. Damn it.
Yeah, God, I'm gonna do that.
I just need my invite back when you guys start doing that. I'm gonna invite you guys on mine as well.
All right, cool. You have a podcast too?
It's a live cast.
Oh wow, that sounds even cooler.
Yeah, we need to morph this into a live cast. That sounds way
Peter, we should start in telecast. That sounds even better. Something you haven't even heard of yet, Elijah. This shit's so new and dope.
We'll be the first one.
You don't even know about it yet.
And before
Tell me about
50.
Yeah.
All right, our slapstick is over.
I'll be in
Elijah,
Chicago on Thursday if you want to tune in.
Elijah, it was a joy having you, pal. I hope to get to hang out with you in real life one day. And
Sure.
Craig, you're as handsome as always. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast.
Peace. See ya.
Take care.